And I believe Representative Thiessen's a co-sponsor on it, and he flagged me and made the motion to move that House File 468 be recommended to pass and referred to the General Register. Ways and Means, my apologies. So, Representative Cornish, to your bill.
Mr. Chairman, members, House File 468 is a bill for $101,000 appropriation to go to the Department of Economic Development and Employment. It's to go to the city of Madelia for infrastructure needs. What brought this about is a devastating fire in one of the towns in my district, Madelia. Madelia is a city that has a rare occurrence of just about every business on Main Street being active, where a lot of towns you come into in the rural area are shuttered windows. This was a thriving business community in Madelia. And on February 3rd at either 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, this fire started with multiple fire departments coming down the middle of a blizzard and making it very hard to fight the fire and basically utter destruction of Main Street. So this bill is for the infrastructure needs for Madelia, the work that they've done to repair the infrastructure. And I brought along with me I should say there's a non-state, doesn't require a match from the local community. It's $101,000. I brought with me from the community Brent Christensen. I'd like to introduce him and say a few words about the situation, Mr. Chair.
Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Brent Christensen. Normally, I'm before this committee on behalf of the Minnesota Telecom Alliance, but I live in Madelia, and they have asked me to come up and testify. Behind me is our city administrator, assistant city administrator, chamber director, and for whatever reason, the city administrator doesn't want to come up and testify, so she wanted me to do it. We have a wonderful community of 2,300 that was devastated, as Representative Cornish said, on February 3rd. All of our businesses, the next day after the fire, committed to rebuilding and are in the process of rebuilding. The buildings are back, the structures are up, and 2 of the businesses have actually moved back. This bill before you today is to help the city recover the costs of the infrastructure that was lost, the sewer, water, and other facilities that were lost in the fire. And you know, I used to be the mayor of Madelia, and I will tell you that budget for a town our size isn't that large, so this had a devastating effect on the city of Madelia as well. So I would ask for your support, and with that, I would entertain any questions.
Thank you. Representative Cornish, do you have any other invited testifiers you wish to have testify today?
No, sir. No.
Thank you. With this is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to testify in favor or voice concerns with the bill? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment portion and move to member questions. Representative Mahoney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have a question for you and then for the testifier. I can't imagine that, I mean, haven't followed it that close, so you'll have to correct me or inform me, that the city of Madelia has not put $101,000, probably 2 or 3 or 4 times that amount into the recovery. So my question is, because it sets a bad precedent to not require any matching funds, you've already done that. I have to believe that you already invested $101 or even $202,000. So why the non-state?
To either Representative Cornish or to the testifier, or perhaps to nonpartisan research if you wish to defer to them.
Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, Representative Mahoney, I will tell you that the work's already been done, and the city has already paid out that cost to do that. That obviously wasn't budgeted, a budgeted line item, so it wasn't something that they were anticipating having to do. That said, as far as this really just addresses the infrastructure piece, the sewer and water. It doesn't address all of the other things that you know, the cleanup and all those things. So from the infrastructure part of it, I think this pretty much covers that, just that.
Representative Mahoney.
Mr. Chair, could I get an explanation as to if they had done other cleanup work and stuff, could that be counted as a state match?
Sure. Mr. Zempel or Mr. Weeks?
Mr. Chair, members, I believe it's because the work's already been done is why I needed the exemption from the state match, because those are generally prospective grants, but I could look into it more closely and see if additional work that would be done by the city would count towards a match.
Representative Mahoney.
Well, Mr. Chair, and, you know, and I followed the news like everybody else in the state, and I'm thoroughly impressed by what Madelia has done and the commitment they made. I saw the pictures on the news. The buildings are back, which is great, and I'm thrilled. I just want to make sure that this does, I'm worried about setting a precedent of paying this kind of money out without a matching piece, so I want all the committee members, I want the chair to realize that that's, it's a very, very unusual way to do it, and I'm happy to do it. I'm going to vote for this. I think it should go forward, but that's just, that being said, it's an unusual way to do it, and we should not make a precedent of it.
Sure. So, Mr. Weeks, I think the committee will take action on this bill today. But Mr. Weeks, if you could work with Representative Cornish and myself, I think there's probably a way to draft this language the way Representative Mahoney is referring to, so that the funds that have already been expended in areas outside of this would be counting as a proportional matching grant, so it's not just a 100% grant. Does that make sense, Representative Cornish?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and for comfort level, I have carried bills a couple of times before that have not required a non-state match, just simply because the community has been strapped and can't afford it.
Okay, so we'll work with Mr. Weeks and we'll take care of that, and then we can address that in Ways and Means. Mr. Christensen.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Mahoney, one thing I think that makes this unique, and I don't know of another time that I've ever seen it done, where the community has actually gone ahead, both the businesses rebuilding and then the city committing to rebuilding. You know, we're almost done and we're almost back, and we're not waiting for help.
Yeah.
We didn't wait for help.
I understand.
So,
Thank you.
any other questions? Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The same thing happened in my city of Melrose. I just want to ask you, in Madelia, how have you handled the increased property value from when your buildings were replaced? And that's a big item as well.
Mr. Christensen.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Anderson, that's a very good question, and that is something that makes me even more proud to be from Madelia than anything else, because our property owners didn't wait for any assistance. The property values on those buildings was approximately $80,000 before the fire, and those buildings are going to be valued at over $4.1 million when it's done. So it's an incredible increase. The city of Madelia stepped up right away, and that's one of the reasons I'm willing to come up here and talk on their behalf, because they stepped up and abated all of the taxes for 20 years. Watonwan County has abated the taxes post-fire, so they're holding the taxes at the date as they were at the date of the fire for 20 years. So,
Any other questions from members? Any closing comments, Representative Cornish?
Well, just thank you and for helping a small rural town get back on its feet. I appreciate your support.
With that, Representative Thiessen renews his motion that House File 468 be recommended to pass and referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion prevails. Thank you, Representative Cornish.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.